Welcome back. This is a lesson out of Khan Academy from Algebra 1, and the unit is Quadratic Functions and Equations. We are looking at the skill called Scale and Reflect Parabolas. So, this question says that function f of x is x squared. That's the parent function of a parabola, simplest form of it. And then g of x equals 3 times x squared. So let's think about what's happening there. X squared might look something like this. We know that when x is 0, 0 squared is 0, so we're going to have a vertex right on the origin there, right there on the origin, all right? And this function is just like that, except after I square x, I'm going to multiply by 3. Well, 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. So my vertex is still at 0, 0. But as soon as I step off of that vertex, if I go to the right, say to x equals 1, then I have, instead of 1 squared is 1, I have 1 squared times 3. So I'm now at 1, 3. So if this was my 1, 1 right here, then my g of x function, if I make that red, will be at 1, 3, right there. If I make x negative 1, the original function would be negative 1 squared is 1, but if I multiply that by 3, I'm again up here. If I make x 2, then 2 squared is 4, 4 times 3 is 12, now I'm way up high, right? So what's happening is my y value is getting 3 times as far away from the x-axis as it was originally. So it looks like this. Now, that is a vertical stretch because we're taking every y value and multiplying it, that is, however far away it was, it's now several times further away. That's a vertical stretch. And it makes the parabola look narrower, but don't think about it like pulling in. Think of it like stretching vertically, okay? And let's look at our answer possibilities. Which option could show the graph? Well, we just saw this one. Looks right. It did not compress it vertically. Our y values got larger than they were, not smaller. And it didn't reflect it. Positive y values stayed positive because I multiplied them by a positive 3. So neither of those are right. Next question. The function g, which is pink here, can be thought of as a scaled version of the parent function f of x squared. So, notice first of all that it reflected over the x-axis. That means every time it was positive, it became negative. Well, that's going to happen by multiplying by a negative number. So we know that our constant in front of x squared on function g of x, is going to be a times x squared. We didn't translate it, so we're not adding or subtracting from x, and we're not adding or subtracting outside of x. We're just scaling it and reflecting it. So we know that a has to be less than 0, has to be negative, because we have all our positive y values have become negative. Okay, so then they ask us, what do they ask us? Let's see. Write the equation for x, g of x, given that they gave us this point, and we know that a has to be negative. Okay, so if we look at the original function, we see that if you evaluate it at x equals 2, you're on 2, 4, right here. 2, 4. So f of 2 equals equals 4. I get the same absolute value on my other function, but it now has a negative sign. So that tells me that I have not stretched, I haven't gotten further from the x-axis, so my a is actually going to be 1, but it's going to be negative because it reflected. So my new function is g of x equals negative x squared, and we can confirm if we put 2 in here, it's negative 2 times 2. That's negative 4. And that's what we wanted. So g of x equals negative x squared. Next question. The parabola y equals x squared, the parent function, is reflected across the x-axis and then scaled vertically by a factor of 1/6. Okay, so the reflection happens because the sign is negative. So we have a negative. And the factor, the scale factor, is 1/6. It's been multiplied. That's what scaling means. It means that you've multiplied something. The scale is 1/6. And the function was x squared. So, the parent function x squared has been reflected over the x-axis and scaled by a factor of 1/6, which means actually it's getting closer to the x-axis. I'm going to show you that on Desmos. So here is a parabola. Currently, a is 1, and since h and k are both 0, this f of x function is the parent function. X minus 0 is x, x squared is x squared. A is 1, so 1 times x squared is x squared, plus 0, 0 for k. So this is f of x equals x squared. If I adjust just the a so that it is equal to negative 1/6, you see what happened there is it reflected over the x-axis, and it got, all of the y values got closer to the x-axis. So let me show you x squared. So our original function was x squared, and when I multiply that function by negative 1/6, the negative makes it flip over the x-axis, and the scale factor makes each of these distances 1/6 as much as it would be to get onto the original function from the x-axis. And we're done.